preparation for this eulogy, I reached out to a lot of my cousins and family members for some stories. And one takeaway I got from a lot of these stories is my family's nuts. Amazing people, amazing people. So I just want to start out, please forgive me if I get a little emotional during this. When I set out to write this speech, I didn't realize how deep of an imprint Ray left on me. As I searched for meaning behind this emotion, I discovered that while I am sad and in mourning for the loss of my grandfather, I came to find that these emotions being washed up with tears of pride, respect, and honor for a great man that I'm remarkably blessed to have known, yet be related to. From my own perspective and stories that I've listened to, I peel back the layers of Ray Hammerschmidt to reveal a man with such heritage, character, and resilience. Ray, like most men of his generation, they're cut from a different kind of cloth. Compared to the men of my generation, the manliness between the two is jolting. One night, a while back, I was having a discussion with my cousin Phil. We got to talking about Ray and how great of a man he was, and how much admiration we had for him. As we finished the conversation, Phil looked at me, and with much conviction, he said, "You and I can only hope to be half the man our grandfather is." And I strongly agree with that statement. It's something that has stuck with me ever since. While the love and admiration for Ray holds no boundary, we look at his uniqueness and the men of his era. We give these men a term called the greatest generation. It's a pretty solid word to give something the label of greatest. It's just something we don't throw around. And what's interesting is when we start to call something the greatest, there's always someone that creates a debate to counter it. Such as in sports, one might say that a certain player is the greatest, but yet several others would disagree and say that a different player is the greatest. Or talking about food, one might say that a certain pizza place is the greatest, and one might counter something different. But when we start to speak of individuals like Ray, no one dares to question or bring up a debate that these men, on the type of man he was. Instead, we are thankful for his heroic nature and the sacrifices Ray made, not just for his country, but for his family. Ray comes from a type of people that when given the struggle or a challenge that lay before them, they took personal accountability and didn't put forth the effort for fame or recognition. He did it because it was the right thing to do. For this selflessness, we in Unity commit to the idea that Ray and the men of his generation will be forever known as the greatest generation. I want to take us back to a time when Ray is going through high school. It's the early 30s and at the beginning of one of the toughest times in our nation's history, the Great Depression. Ray is removed from school. I've been told that this could be for fighting, not sure, but what Ray doesn't know is he's about to take on a fight bigger than he can anticipate, the Great Depression. He accepts a job at the American Can Company for cents on the hour. He meets a lovely red-headed lady named Mary, courts her and makes her his wife. They mold the family together through this depression while living with Ray's mom in the upstairs attic where there's no insulation, or there's drywall, just insulation on the walls. During this period, they work, they save, and they struggle, not by doing a job they loved or pursued or ever dreamed of doing, but they persevered to put food on their table and give the best to their family. To people like Ray and Mary, this brings happiness to them. They take pride in such a time where many struggle just to hold a job or feed their family. Even when Ray leaves for war to serve his country and do his duty, he returns without compensation. But to men like Ray, he doesn't complain, he doesn't whine, he doesn't beg. For this is not why he went into service. He went to war to hold our freedom and protect our American way of life. He returns, Ray pushes forward. he goes back to work to earn and give his children the opportunity to achieve a life much greater than his own. We look at Ray's actions and we're able to see the backbone he has created. The foundation he lays, not just for his children, but for the fabric of family that is to be. To speak upon this fabric, for me growing up, I think that grandfathers are one of our first best friends. They are men that help mold our sense of humor, our joy, and our optimism in life. When they come to visit us, they teach us our first joke, secret handshake, or maybe a magic trick, sometimes all three. For me, I always felt that I had a special bond with Ray, that funny joke, and maybe some of you too. Even up to the last days, we still had our rhythm. As a boy, Ray would ask me, "What's new?" And at first I would say nothing, but then Ray would counter, "What do you mean nothing? There's New York, New Jersey, New Hampshire, New Zealand." So I quickly caught on. We would go back and forth, naming as many places as we could to think of that started with the word new. One of the last times I spoke to Ray, this past Christmas, we were sitting at the table and I prompted to him, "Hey Ray, what's new?" Without hesitation, at the age of 99, he responded just as he did when I was a boy. It brought such joy to me that we could still laugh and have our moment just as we did so long ago. This was the beauty of Ray. No matter how old he was or how he aged, he was timeless. One of my fondest memories of Ray, he was at the age of 81. My grandparents were over to visit, just as they always do, for dinner or just to be around family, which was the one thing I truly admired about them. They always loved to be around family no matter what. If it was an important event or just for dinner, they were always there. From vacations, just hanging out, to they always made themselves available for family. To me, this represents the strength of Ray's backbone. Another solid part of his foundation, his love for family, to always be outgoing and social. But I digress. We were replacing the roof on the house. My father, brother, and I were nailing shingles to the roof, when all of a sudden, at the age of 81, Ray starts climbing the ladder. Immediately, we tried to stop him. But just like any obstacle in Ray's path, he wasn't going to be stopped. It wasn't in his nature. He climbed on the roof and held his own, going shingle to shingle with us. Here we see Ray is not limited by age. For him, age is just a number, not a definition of who he is or what he can accomplish. Even up to the end, you would never think Ray of someone who's 99 and a half years old, but someone who doesn't let his limitations of age bring him down or stop him from enjoying life. He sets out every day to be with friends and family. Ray is determined to keep his foundation strong, never letting us know if he becomes weak or is in pain. I need to speak about Ray's dapper style, his sense of fashion. Whenever you saw Ray, he was always dressed to the nines. He always managed to look ravishing and handsome. I never knew how he does it. It's something that I will forever envy. I don't know if I could ever pull off a green blazer and white pants, but I would love to. Ray was a man that knew how to tip his hat. It was just something that seemed second nature to him. It was like he was fashionably sensitive, but just too cool to care. From his dapper photos, from the early days to his senior days, where he loved to wear a colorful blazer with white pants and shoes, Ray knew how to wear it well, even if it was something simple as a sweater or pant. Some way, somehow, he made his outfits pop. To broaden the perspective on Ray's foundation, I reached out for some stories and traits from his grandchildren and what they remembered most about him. My brother Tim remembers a man who had an amazing work ethic. He tells us Grandpa was always working on something, most notably at the cottage. He was always moving, fixing something, keeping busy. Ray was someone who didn't sit around. It was in his nature to work and keep improving, to show us the strength of his backbone and how a strong work ethic transitions to keeping our fabric of family everlasting. Jeanette tells me of a time where her and Tim moved into their first house and wanted to put in a patio door. Tim, who is an excellent craftsman, asked Papa to borrow a tool. The next thing you know, Papa's over there helping Tim at their house. To Ray, charity was something he never expected to be recognized for. He loved to lend a hand, even when it wasn't needed. To his backbone, we like to add kindness and generosity. Phil gives us a time where he was underage and liked to drive without a license. He would often enjoy nights where he would take his mom's Thunderbird out on town. One night, Phil had ran out of gas and had limited options to get the car back to the house. He called Papa, and without question, Ray was there to help him out and get the car home safely. This was a secret that Papa kept for Phil. And again, you see the unselfish backbone of Ray. Lee mentions how Papa got a new car. So he offered his old station wagon, which was in perfect working condition, to Lee. Lee was so grateful for the car that he decided it would be a good idea to see how fast he can go down I-57 and destroys said car. Here we see the patience and the love of Ray. Raymond III remembers a time when Phil, Lee, and him were at the cottage with Papa. Constantly horsing around, one of the Stice brothers picks up a rock and whipped it at Ray, striking him in the side of the head. Papa immediately screamed, "I'll cut your ears off," and proceeded to remove the brother and punish him. Ray says, "I never saw Pop so mad. He literally beat him to death." And from that moment on, he never brought all three of us to the cottage again. Here we see Ray the protector, the defender, someone who doesn't stand by and watch his family members suffer or get hurt. Our last story comes from Annette and Lisa. It truly shows Ray's devotion and faith. For those who don't know, when Lisa was born, she had a rare heart defect and was in critical condition. Realizing this was something Ray could not resolve or help through labor or charity, he decided to act through faith. As a devoted Catholic who went to church every Sunday to give an hour to his Lord and Savior, he now upped his ante. Ray and Mary started going to the first Friday devotion Mass for Lisa. Ray gives up an hour every Friday to go and pray for his great-granddaughter. He devotes his time and prayer to the life of Lisa. Even after Lisa's procedures are successful and she goes on to live a healthy life, Ray never stops going to Friday devotion. He keeps his faith in God to help Lisa. Here Ray uses his faith, strength, and prayer to help Lisa through. Ray sets a good example for use that a backbone needs faith and prayer for times when the situation is out of your control. You need to have faith in God to help take care of your family. Ray sets the bar high for all of us, and he leaves an amazing example to how to go about life. While Ray never may be rich in wealth, Ray was rich in love, devotion, and family. Ray teaches us about having a strong work ethic, to always keep moving and improving. Ray was a man who never stopped giving, to always help others and to offer a hand whether needed or not, to love your family no matter what, no matter how much they push your buttons. Ray teaches us to love our country, to fly and respect our flag, to be humble and grateful for everything you have. This is Ray's backbone, on which he built this foundation of our family. He now leaves this to us to carry on, to use as a template to mold our own families with. It's now our duty to create our own fabric of family using Ray's backbone. For a man who we thought we might not be the type of happy, crazy, nutty, fun-loving family we are. In closing, I do not want to say goodbye to Ray. For I know he's no longer physically with us on this plane of existence. He still lives within us all, within our imprint. Sorry, I lost my place. This is Ray's imprint of love on us all. Deep inside, he's made this imprint within us all. This is the reason we will truly miss Ray. We will miss his smile. We'll miss his dapper fashion. We'll miss the way he carried himself and tipped his hat. You always felt special around Ray. And he always went out of his way to make us happy. For this, I do not say goodbye, but rather thank you. Thank you for the sacrifices, your drive, and faith. Thank you for being a devoted husband, father, grandfather, great-grandfather, and even great-great-grandfather. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and love as a friend. And before I end this final sentence, I want to set the table. I'm so grateful that Ray could have met my child, Kendall, and his great-great-grandchild, Amelia. They were both born this year, and the pictures we have and the stories we tell will live on. I'm truly grateful for it. Before I end, I was at Ray's condo and left shortly before he passed. I sat with my brother that night listening to Ray Jr. tell stories about Papa. Finally, when I had to go, I told Ray I would see him later and to take care. I threw the trash out for him and got into my car. I started the car, and as I went to shift the car and drive, and I'm not normally one who believes or has experienced divine intervention or just things that happen as such, but it seemed quite an odd fact that on the radio, a song about 18 years old, and one that I haven't heard in a long time, but that song was My Hero by the Foo Fighters. I didn't think any song could have summed up my last thoughts and moments with Ray that night. It seemed to be perfect. It seemed too perfect to be a coincidence or a random occurrence. I put the car back in park, and stopped to reflect on how blessed I was to have a great man in my life for so long. And with that, I know God truly thanks us for giving him not only a beautiful angel, but our hero. Thank you.